It's the final mock draft of 2023, and for those that have watched, liked, or subscribed because of the mock draft videos, I got to say a massive thank you for that. It has been a wild ride throughout 2023, the entirety of it, the draft stuff especially. So thank you. We're a bit more formal here at Daz Talks Footy today because, look, yes, you never forget your first, but you got to celebrate the last, guys. That's what we're doing today. Individualised picks as well, so they won't be in a running order of 3. A little bit of a graphics upgrade. Hope you enjoy that as well. Make sure you like the video. If you like the video, subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy family. Almost at 2,200, and I think this video can take it over the top, but let's go through the full thing. The full banana, talk about picks that could be traded, the players that are on the table. I'm looking forward to this. I hope you are too. Let's go. Jesus, pick one. This is going to be difficult. It's Harley Reid. West Coast, they're not trading the pick, guys. I totally get, and I find it strange that North Melbourne now are starting to cop a little bit of criticism for still trying to trade for the pick. Why wouldn't you? You don't put your best deal on the table first. That's not what they did. They continually try to negotiate. If it happens, amazing for North. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I think North are confined to the fact that, or resigned to the fact, I should say, that they're not going to get him. I think Ben Cousins should present the jumper to him. Yes, Ben has a very problematic past of which should not be ignored. But from a purely footballing statement point of view, the jumper number is available. This kid already has the world on his shoulders. The AFL want past legends to present the jumpers. That just makes sense. So, Harley Reid to the Eagles, and then we've got our first bid, and that is Gold Coast getting Jed Walter. As you can see, the picks that are absorbed, the picks that are received. Now, I know there are reports that Brisbane and Gold Coast are negotiating the first of those picks to be traded out. That absolutely can happen. It would be really interesting to see what kind of player Brisbane suspect are going to be at that spot. Clearly, they're going for a quality, not quantity, in terms of picks anyway. But they are also trying to get assets for next year to make up points for Levi Ashcroft as well. So their draft strategy this year is going to be interesting because you're 12 months out, future picks are on the line, all of that still matters. So they've got some late picks to try and get some future assets later on. Why not try to move up as well? It makes perfect sense. But Jed Walter's going to be Ben King's teammate, hopefully, for the remainder of their careers, and are going to create quite the dynamic duo. Ben, not the most defensively minded tall forward, doesn't need to be. Jed is really good in the air, does not look 18 at all. Have we got that DNA test done yet? But Jed with Dimmer, Ben King, I mean, they're your pillars. Start from there. Hawthorn did it with Buddy and Ruff. Can Gold Coast do it with Ben and Jed? I know I've spoken a lot about Hawthorn being the hardest pick to predict, but now that Alistair Clarkson is meeting with Dan Curtin at around the time of recording, it's going to be very interesting to see what North do. I think the first player they just have to take off the board here is Colby McKercher. Colby's a star, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. 5 years from now, I think he's going to be the best player out of this draft class. Whether that goes for the remainder of career, who knows, but he finds the footy, uses it unbelievably well. North have got a jet here. I think we all know about Colby by now, and I've bought all the stock. I know Pommy in Oz, who I did a mock draft with, is on him as well, but piss off, Pommy. All that stock's mine, my friend. But he's a legend. Go check that out as well. And if you are a Carlton fan, or even a footy fan, go and subscribe to him as well. Curtin v. Dersma. Now, if this was the last pick in the first round that North Melbourne had, it's Dan Curtin for mine. They've got 3 more picks in the first round that they can use on tools who will be available. So here's Zane Dersma. Considering your second leading goal kicker last year after Nick Larkey kicked 70 was Jaden Stevenson with 26, yeah, go get yourself another goal kicker for crying out loud. Paul Curtis, Cam Zurhaar. Okay, one of them is young, one of them is not so young. I suspect Cam Zurhaar will not be at North in 2025 anyway. Dersma just makes sense. Now, depending on how much they love the key backs, your Ollie Murphys, your Ari Schoenmaker, at their picks may determine this. But yes, North's key defensive back stock stink. But what do you want to be better at for your fans to have some hope? More goals or concede less of them? I'm going scoring. If North are going to lose games by an average of, say, 4 goals, then losing, in my opinion, 100-76 is going to be a hell of a lot better for fans to stomach than 70-46. Go get Zane Dersma. Freak. And I'm a Hawthorn man, and I want him desperately. But this isn't a draft to suit the Hawks. This is a draft pick to suit the Roos. Speaking of the Hawks, yes, on Twitter, I did go with the Hawks drafting either Zane Dersma or Connor O'Sullivan. I don't know why I keep thinking we're going to take O'Sullivan, but I still think it's a smoky. I really do. But in this scenario, I'm going with Dan Curtin for the Hawks. Yes, Nick Watson would add small forward depth. Yes, he would be the X factor. Yes, sometimes you've got to ask yourself, do you want to score or do you want to defend? You're seeming a little bit hypocritical here, Dazzling. That's fair, and I don't really have a response to that, to be perfectly honest. But it's either going to be, I think, Dersma or Curtin for the Hawks, and it's going to be Dersma or Curtin for the Roos. And the logic applies to both, considering the Hawks get to pick second. They get Dan Curtin, who is a very good defender. Now, the Hawks don't need a 190-plus centimetre midfielder for two reasons. One, the centre clearance differential for the Hawks was the 5th best in the league last year. They don't need a guy at the centre bounce. Number two, we already turned Connor Nash around. Now, could Dan Curtin be a better midfielder than Connor Nash? Absolutely he could be. Absolutely he could be. He might be now. Who knows? But, Will Day also exists. We don't need him to play in the midfield. So, if he's comfortable being a defender for the next 12 years, welcome to Waverley, Daniel. Bulldogs, Nick Watson. It's the perfect fit. The Wizard ends up kicked 70 goals across all competitions last year, the Wizard. Holy smokes. But he gets to go alongside Cody Waitman. He's got Norton, Ugle-Hagan, and potentially Jordan Croft. Wait and see. No, they're getting Jordan Croft. Just makes a hell of a lot of sense. Yes, Riley Sanders will be the tempter at this point, but if Nick Watson is still on the board, the Bulldogs are going to read his name out. I feel like that's 80-20 at this point. The D's, I can understand wanting Curtin at this spot if he falls. He's not on the board anymore. Go get Nate Caddy. The D's need to score. They're a contender that let their goal kicking let them down. Oh, but they only kicked inaccurately. Their best forward's Bailey Fritsch, which is amazing for Bailey. Do not get me wrong. The Fritzl with the man with hair that doesn't move. It's extraordinary. The way it just bounces. But it doesn't come out of place at all. Van Rooyen has come along beautifully. But in 2024, Melbourne are not winning the flag. If it's Fritz at 1 in the forward rankings, and then nothing. He can still be 1 and the other forwards do good things, but it's up to the other forwards to do good things. Nate Caddy, over 190 centimetres tall, would bring another dimension to that forward line. He and McAdam, alongside the rest of that forward line, is a help. Go and do it, Melbourne. You've got 2 first-round picks. Go and address the defender second. The Giants bid on Ethan Reid here. Gold Coast obviously accept. You can have a look at the picks that are absorbed and received there. Best ruckman in the class looks that way. An athletic freak for sure. He joins Ned Moyle and Jared Witts in that ruck room. Not really much else to say here. He's just, again, kind of like Walter, Jake Rogers, and Will Graham. Because they're expected to just end up at the Suns, they're not really spoken about all that much. But is there a chance that Reid is the best of their academy kids? Yes, there is. Back to the Giants, and they go for Caleb Windsor here. I love the idea of them getting a goal kicker. Now, I think their ideal target here would be Nick Watson, but the likelihood of him getting to this spot is reasonably unlikely unless the Hawks do go a surprise and take Connor O'Sullivan, which looks more unlikely now, but just a goal-kicking mid who can burst away from the stoppage. He doesn't have to start his career in the midfield because Kelly, Canelio, Tom Green, they're all there. Just works. His ability to find the goals is nice. He's deceptively quick. I'm on the Caleb Windsor to GWS train in a big way. As a Hawthorn man, I'm not a massive fan of Geelong. As someone who analyses footy, I analyse everyone on a non-biased basis. Okay? That will never change. So, the mock drafter in me loves this. Loves this so much for the Cats. The Hawthorn fan in me hates it, but they end up with Riley Sanders. He and Jai Clark, the next generation of Geelong's midfield in a post-Dangerfield and Guthrie, that of course being the Cameron variety, and Mitch Duncan, although he's not really in as much centre bounces anymore, is going to be awesome. And I'm going to keep this to the non-biased part for all you Cats fans out there. This guy just finds the footy with ease. Again, one that's not really spoken about, even though he's a high quality player. Because of the North Melbourne Next Generation Academy stuff, what was going to happen there? Could the Roos try to trade up for this pick? Absolutely, they could. Could the Crows try to trade up and maybe nab themselves a key defender here? Absolutely they could. Absolutely they should try. So should North. So should potentially even someone like the Bombers, even though their pick is next, if they like their man so much, in a real Josh Sin, Campbell, Chesser type trade that Port Adelaide and the Eagles went through a couple of years ago. But if Riley Sanders is on the board, Geelong ain't trading that pick for £1 million. So enjoy this one, Cats fans, and enjoy your next pick as well, because it's quite good. Bombers fans hate me for this, but if you pass on Connor, Bombers fans are going to hate me for this, but if you pass on Connor again. Connor. It's not that hard, fuckwit. Connor. Don't say Connor. I swear to God. The Bombers have got plenty of draft picks. They might not need to address a 100% need right now. Connor O'Sullivan is still on the board. Take him. Nick Cox is not a key defender. Zach Reid, a little bit injured. Mason Redmond can be your third defender. Jordan Ridley can be your fourth. You could have the most versatile, lengthy backline, and why are you complaining? Like, really? What? I don't understand Essendon fans that don't like this at all. You address some needs in free agency. Go get the best available kid. He and Ben Mackay can be your key defenders. Zach Reid, his body is letting him down. I hope beyond hope Zach Reid plays 250 games. I really do. But you're in this spot. Go take what could be the best key defender in the draft, depending on what happens with Dan Curtin and where he plays. Just do it. Stop conceding so many marks inside 50. He can help you. Ben Mackay can help you now. In a couple of years' time, he'll help you then. Just do it. Simple as that. And then Adelaide go and get themselves Darcy Wilson. A guy who doesn't need to play at the centre bounce in round one. A guy who they can tinker with. They've done it a little bit with Lukey Pedler. Although Luke Pedler is a permanent half forward for the remainder of his career. With how bloody good he is, it's actually not a bad thing at all. But Darcy Wilson, as he goes through the competition, is going to be amazing. In my mind, I don't think Adelaide can win a flag with Dawson and Laird at every centre bounce. I do think one of them needs to go back, and I know this sounds crazy, but I'd honestly have it nearly as Rory Laird at this point. Both of them are incredible players, and can Laird rotate through the midfield? Of course he can, but as a permanent mid, I feel like they need a bit more X factor, a bit more excitement. Laird and Matt Crouch at centre bounces isn't really going to get the job done, especially not in a couple of years' time. A guy like Wilson helps that beautifully. Such a classy mover, and the Crows right now licking their lips after their first selection. Melbourne, you get to address your defender. Harrison Petty's going to play forward. You got Van Rooyen. You've got Caddy. You've got Fritsch. You got Pickett. You got McAdam. You got Alex Neil-Bullen. Who you got down back? James Leake. Whose player comp is Harrison Petty. Intercept defender. Does the job. If Jacob Van Rooyen, who did play forward and back throughout his draft year, wants to be developed as a defender as well, you can go throw him back there in a post-Stephen May era and have your three key defenders as Van Rooyen, as Jakey Lever, and James Leake. That works as well. Melbourne, Nate Caddy, James Leake. To quote Moana, what can I say? Except you're welcome. The Bulldogs here match a bid for Jordan Croft. Yes, they've got an abundance of tools. The Rory Lobb trade is making less and less sense, let me tell you. But when you got a guy this talented, you've just got to pick him up. And when it's effectively for free, and what I mean is not in the open draft, you've just got to do it and figure it out later. It doesn't need to play round one. Let Jamara, let Aaron Norton do their thing. If Jamara does leave the Bulldogs at the end of next year, which for the record I don't think he is going to do, Croft can step in. I think this all but confirms Sam Darcy will be a defender for his entire career. I don't think you can play him forward now. English is going to be your roaming ruckman, never going to rest forward anyway, not that he was doing that. And Lobb is now insurance on that depth chart. So, nice by the Bulldogs there. Makes a lot of sense. Again, not in the open draft, so they can figure out what they want to do with him. And what they should be doing with him is trialling him as a forward in the VFL, let him develop his craft that way, and then he becomes your third best tall forward. I know the Swans could potentially trade this pick, but if Colton Folstrop, who I've just learned his pronunciation. So proud of myself there. It's Colton and your family. I do apologise that I've gotten it wrong for effectively 8 of these bloody mock drafts. But I understand they need to, or they want to trade down, but how do you ignore this guy? Yes, you've got the inconsistent at times Isaac Heaney, the workhorse in Will Haywood, the excitement of Tom Papley, and the ever-improving Sam Wicks up there in the forward line. You've got McDonald, Amati, you've got Hayden McLean as well, who showed his talent in the back half of last year as well. But you add this guy to the mix who, when he is indoctrinated into the AFL system, could join Errol Goulden and Chad Warner at some centre bounces. He's got the mullet, he's got the hair, he's got the swagger, he's very well spoken too, is KT. It almost makes too much sense. I can get that they would want to trade back if they want to. They can get a couple of youngsters before a bid on Caden Cleary. I just don't know how you can ignore a guy that can hit the scoreboard, has got a good aerobic capacity, I should say. How do you do it? I don't think I could. Gold Coast here match a bid for Jakey Rogers, and again, could be one of the more underrated players from this draft, purely and simply because he's not spoken about enough because of the academy stuff. But he'll start his career outside of the midfield because, of course, they got Took, they got Noah Anderson, Matt Rowell, Sam Flanders as sort of their core four, to quote, the Scream franchise. Anyone have that on their bingo card coming into this video? Not 100% sure you would have. I didn't, but there you go. But he'll be able to start forward to centre. He'll be a quality over quantity player as he gets started in his career. Yes, he is a little bit small. Does not matter. Let him do his thing. Stop criticising 18-year-olds for things they can't control. For crying out loud. I'm trying not to swear in this video, so we'll go with crying out loud. But massive good luck to Jakey boy, and don't let him go under the radar in terms of these academy boys. This kid's got talent, a lot of it. St Kilda, Nazaya Wanganeen Miller moved up the ground a little bit, played a bit more wing in the last 6 games of the season before the final against the Giants. Jack Sinclair just needs to be a midfielder. So, Roscoe, go get Riley Hardiman. Simple as that. They need pace. This kid's got it. They need composure. This kid's got it. It just makes an abundance of sense. Yes, they could go a tall here. Nearly all of the talls are still on the board at this point. But their defense held up. Ross's defensive system held up, so they don't, I think, need to address it with their first pick. They still can later on, if that's the way the draft goes. But right now, first pick, best talent available, can play round 1 if need be, and is a beautiful user of the footy. The Western Australian is their man. Think it would be remiss of the Crows not to bid on Will McCabe at this point, so the Hawks absorb some picks, get one back as well. The Central Districts man, I should say, I do worry he's a bit more James Sicily than he is like a key defender, but we'll see how he develops and goes, because Denver Granger Barris was a bit more of an intercept defender when he was drafted, and with James Sicily there, it's not really working out that way. But fingers crossed, Wilbur can become a key defender, or fingers crossed he can become a little bit of a forward target as well, considering that he has got some talent in that area. However, his ability to intercept and beat his opponent at under 18 level really did shine, so I think a defender is going to be the way to go. And yeah, I'm already in love with the way the Hawks draft is going at the moment. Yes, Curtin and McCabe, you might be wondering, 2 defenders straight up. Yes. And any Hawthorn fan should be telling you that's the way it should go with how Hawthorn's best 22 is looking at the moment. Back to the Crows. Could they take a key defender here? They absolutely could. Are they? No. George Stevens is the man to go to. Rory Sloane and Matt Crouch are currently in your 22. By the end of 2024, this kid could be better than both of them. Sloane might be on his last year. Yes, Matt Crouch did sign a 2-year extension, but he needs to be seen as insurance. This guy should be seen as every much of yes, please. An absolute bull. Is he the best user of the footy? No. Does he need to be? Not really. Paddy Cripps and Ollie Wines won Brownlows for being bulls. Neither of them are good field kicks. Now, I know Brownlows aren't everything, but what I'm saying is that we shouldn't look at an 18-year-old who can do what he does in the contest and go, oh yeah, but some of his kicks aren't going to hit the target. Wah. No. Bring him to the Crows. Darcy Wilson and George Stevens is as good of a start of a draft as you can hope for a team that is going to finish top 4 next year. Now, I think North know that GWS aren't going to take anyone tall here, so I actually think they put this pick on the table if anyone wants to trade up. However, Lance Collard might be there and they just might need to get him. Dersma and Collard is a great way to start. Colby McKercher. This draft is taking place beautifully right now for the Roos, and they will get through tools a little bit later on, so stick with me here. But Collard, creative around the goals. Again, I don't think Cam Zurhaar's going to be there next year. They still need help in that forward half. Yes, they've got Braden George, but for crying out loud, Collingwood had forward depth last year and won the flag. Brisbane had the best group of forwards in the competition last year with the amount of depth and versatility that they had, and they were 4 points off a flag. Stop telling me you've got enough. They're a bad team. They do not have enough firepower in front of goals. They had 3 blokes kick 20 plus last year. Stop it. Collard, Western Australian, risen up draft boards. Some are talking about that he could be a flight risk, but young player, young team. Yes, they did lose JHF, but who cares? That doesn't mean they're going to lose everyone. So, Collard to North, I really like it. Speaking of things I really like, the Giants again. And they're going to go with the underrated man of last year's Boxing Day test, that being Harry DiMattia, who did run the drinks for the Boxing Day test last year, for those that didn't know, which is starting to become a little bit like Pendle's basketball background, although I actually think Harry's is a little bit of a cooler story because I am an absolute cricket nuffy. I'm a basketball nuffy as well, but I've loved cricket for longer, so shout out to you, Harry. But in terms of class, pace, Lockie Asher's developing into more of a midfielder. Harry can go down back or wherever is required, a good ball user, but most importantly, he's got footy IQ, and Adam Kingsley is looking for that in absolute spades. Back-to-back for the Roos. Let's start with a ruckman. Let's go Mitch Edwards. Now, yes, they've got Tristan Sherry. I know that. But, my God, Mitch Edwards is a star, and just let him be one. He is a ruckman who is a ruckman. What do I mean by that? He may not have the athletic profile. Okay, he may not have the whatever you think is important in a ruckman outside of ruck work, like some others do in this draft. But the bloke wins hitouts, finds the footy, uses it well, and beats his opponent. In a ruckman, that's all you need. And he's a very, very good one. There is a world I see Mitch Edwards being the best ruck out of this draft class. But because, for some reason, a social media world likes athleticism more than footballing talent, and there are plenty of rucks in this draft that have got both, including Mitch, I think North need to take the guy who can be the best ruckman. That's Mitch. And then they can follow it up with the key defender, that being Ollie Murphy in this spot. Yes, he didn't go all that well at the draft combine, but again, those results aren't necessarily everything. It's what you do when you get out on the field. Now, where I feel for whichever key defender that North do pick up, whether it's Curtin, Early, Murphy here, Schoenmaker, whoever it might be, is that they're probably expected to play round one, in which case they are going to be thrown to the absolute wolves. You could put first year Matty Scarlett in that back line and he'd get killed because he got killed in his first year. Like, that's the way that it works. So I do hope that North have got the support system for when their key defender that they draft in this draft, or they might even draft two, who knows, that they know that it is all about development. And I can't help but think of what Phil Davis was reminded of by, I think it was Steven Silvani, when they were at the Giants together. And that is, when this starts, it will only get easier. So work your ass off, grind away, and when North get better, they'll get better. It's the same logic I've got with Ben Mackay being a good recruit at Essendon. It won't be as bad moving forward. It won't be for any of these guys. And I've got Ollie as the next best key defender in this draft. Could they trade up for Connor O'Sullivan? Yes, they can. Should they? Yes. Yes, they should. Collingwood, Will Green. Again, athletic freak. Darcy Cameron can play a bit more forward if necessary. Will can as well, because the idea of having a ruckman go out there and then go to the bench doesn't really work at all. Collingwood don't have a tall forward, as we know. Yes, it helped them win the flag, but you also can't deny that as memeable as Mason Cox can be, he does halve contests, which is what your tall needs to do at the very least. And Will can do that. So can Darcy Cameron. It is a really nice fit. Yes, best talent available for a premiership team is good, but it is also a need, not necessarily for 2024, but that can be a time for development. And that's what I think Green can do for the Pies. And back to the Crows for the Tom Doedee compensation, and I've got them taking Chu Giath in this spot, who is, ironically, the Tom Doedee replacement in that part. I know Adelaide fans might be freaking out that they haven't got a key defender here, and I understand why. Because ACL, I understand what's going on at the Crows. But you've got to play the cards that you're dealt, and right now, what they're getting dealt is excitement, excitement, excitement. And that is a good thing. Chu doesn't take the game on like his brother Chancroft does at the Hawks, but my goodness, he can use the ball beautifully, and his composure really does stand out. I think Crows fans would fall in love with him immediately. The Swans here match a bid for Caden Cleary, which means we've still got 2 more picks after this until we get to the end of the first bloody round, guys. My goodness. But best tackler in this draft, another contested player. The Swans get an absolute beauty here, and they are going to match the bid, you would suspect. They've got some midfielders on the outer. They've still got Angus Sheldrick, Matty Roberts, these guys who are on the outer. So you do wonder, are these guys really going to get a go? But knowing how the Swans develop, knowing the fact they've got Colton, who they will play forward for the start of his career anyway, this really isn't that big of a deal. Pick the good ones, they'll stay. And if you don't think there are guys that are going to be there for your next premiership side or you can get value for, it's not a bad thing either. St Kilda still think they're a midfielder short, so I've got them taking Charlie Edwards in this spot. I like this guy a lot. Another underrated player in this draft. Charlie finds the footy, uses it well, and is pretty tough, I've got to be honest with you. Yes, the Saints might have maybe some pressing needs here, but I do agree that the back end of the first draft, you are looking at best talent available, and projecting forward, I think this guy could be very, very good, and the Saints' start to this draft is very, very good, as their 2 drafts before this one have been as well, just quietly. And we can finish the first bloody round with Carlton, who take Ashton Moir in this spot. A guy who was projected to be, let's be honest, like the number 3 pick as early as May this year, or maybe even April. But the Blues, he accompanies Jesse Motlop. Yes, they've got other smalls in that spot, not taking away from that at all. But when you've got a guy who's this raw a talent, and you're in the back end of the first round, it is increasingly difficult, I think, for you to turn around and go, nah. Chu Giath would make a lot of sense in this spot. Luamon Lual, I'll get that out properly. Would be a good fit in this spot as well. But the raw talent that Moyer's got would be hard to ignore. And the injury-prone thing isn't really a thing until we hit AFL level. The amount of times we hear guys have ACLs in their draft year and then go on to be okay. I mean, look at bloody Brody Kemp, just quietly. Fell in the draft because of an ACL, and let me tell you, he's a bloody good footballer. So I'm not really worried about Ashton's body until something comes out and says that it's chronic and may ruin his career before it starts. And that hasn't happened. Knock on wood, that doesn't happen. He'd fit in very nicely at the Blue Baggers. And that concludes the first round, but we're not here to stop. We're going straight into the second round. Back to the Eagles. Archie Roberts is the man that we are going to look at here. Really classy midfielder, defender. I think he'd start more in the defensive spot, considering they've got Harley Reid already. They've got Jinby, Hewitt. Noah Long will rotate off a half-forward flank as well. And remembering that Tim Kelly and Elliot Yeo are still at the Eagles. So shuffle on down there, young man. Learn from Liam Duggan and the like, and you will be in pretty good shape. Really classy user and a really good fit for the Eagles here. Back to the Kitty Cats. I've got them taking Ari Schoenmaker in this spot. They get someone to accompany Sam de Koning. Yes, even though they've got guys who aren't really key defenders that Geelong fans keep telling me are key defenders. Kolajasny, Jack Henry. They're not key defenders. They play as them. But are you really going to turn down Schoenmaker in this spot? Sam de Koning, Schoenmaker, and then you can add in Kolajasny, who can play tall and small. Jack Henry, who does the same. No, of course you're not. Young gun, this one. Kicks the ball a hell of a long way, as shown by the longest kick competition. And, of course, if you watch his highlights as well, which I highly recommend doing, he'd fit in down there well at the Cattery. And because you've got those defenders who can play tall, he doesn't necessarily need to go and stand next to a Charlie Kerner or Harry Mackay early on in his career either. Back to Carlton again. I've got them taking Logan Morris in this spot. Third tall. With those 2 twin towers they've got, with the small forwards they've got, and you add in Ashton Moir to that group as well, no one can convince me this isn't a good idea. Their defense is fine. Their midfield, very good. Their forward line, well, the talls are good. And what can the Smalls do? Well, you make a defender accountable with Morris. You've got something pretty good going here. Good set shot goal kicker as well. Really nice on the lead. And I'm not going to make the comparisons to the number 19 at Hawthorn because everyone else is. And I've even done it. And I'm even starting to get sick of it a little bit. But Morris to the Blues, I love in a big, big way. Richmond, yes, they confirmed that they have interest in Lance Collard. No chance they're getting him, even if they do try to trade up. With what? They don't have a first or a second round pick next year. So good luck with that, and you let me know how that goes. But when you've got Taylor Goad falling into your lap at this spot, you've simply just got to take him. Your replacement for the lost Ivan Soldo, more athletic than Toby Nankervis and could be ready to go very soon. Yes, they've got Samson Ryan, which I understand, but he's developing as a tall forward. You've got Cozzy down there as well, the former Hawk. So when you've got an athletic freak here at this spot and you haven't had to move, go do it. Brisbane here, I think you've just got to take best talent available, and it is a slide for Luamon Lual here. I love this guy. The composure of this young man is extraordinary. Yes, you can talk about the pace, the speed, but his eyes are incredible. What do I mean by that? When he picks up the footy, his eyes move. He scans the ground really well. It's an underrated part of being such a quick rebounding defender. You've got to see the whole ground. He does that. Yes, Brisbane have got these types of defenders. Yes, they've got Tom Doedee. I understand that. But when you're only 4 points off a flag, take the best talent available. Of all the talent that's on the board, that's him. Simple. Done. Moving on. Back to the Bombers, and in this spot, I've got them taking the man known as Double Z, Zane Zakastelski. Tall depth, great. Yes, they've already taken a tall in this draft. Don't stress, your next pick won't be a tall, Bombers fans. You can relax on that front. But when you've got a guy as athletic as this, with as much upside, you get to pick what kind of footballer he becomes. The Bombers need that. They need to be able to mould this guy into what they want. I worry about Draper's health. Yes, you've got Nick Bryan there as well. Yes, you could use Zakastelski as a tall forward as well. But you've got an athletic freak with this much upside. Take him and figure the rest out later. The Pies, Archer Reed. They don't need a tall forward because they want a flag without one. But if Archer Reed's still on the board, why do Collingwood not take him? But this kid's got a good ceiling. And I don't think he can go in and be a number one tall forward. Okay, he can't be a number one forward. He wouldn't be at the Pies. He would be their number one tall forward. But he wouldn't be their number one forward. And that's okay. That's okay. Raw talent. Collingwood. They can grab that. Because, premiership defenders and all those sorts of things. Makes sense. Go do it. Go get Archer Reed, Collingwood. Thank you. Rio, way to go. Phoenix Gothard is the man they are going to go for in this spot. They need a Lockie Schultz replacement. They could go a tall here. They could take a Luke Lloyd in this spot, but Amos and Tracy are seemingly the guys that they are going to go with, as well as the rotation of Luke Jackson when he is not playing in the ruck. Sean Darcy is not a forward, guys. My goodness, stop telling me he is. He is not. So, you're going to get a guy who is clever around the goals. You've already got some smalls that do the same thing anyway. He's not going to be exactly the same as Lockie Schultz. Lockie Schultz is a very good player. We don't know what Phoenix is going to be like. But in terms of positional need, you're entering the draft for the first time at this spot. Here's your man. The Bombers. You're not taking it all at this point. You're going to take Cooper Simpson, goal-kicking midfielder. Yes, he won't need to start as a midfielder throughout the start of his career, so don't stress. Okay? It's not like he's coming in and taking someone's spot straight away. That's not the point of draftees. But in terms of raw talent, footy IQ, and the fact that he can hit the scoreboard, I think he'd be silly not to consider in this spot. Small, agile, may not be the greatest defensive player, but my goodness, guys, we're not expecting these kids to be finished products yet. Bombers fans, go and watch his highlights now. I reckon you'd like him. I think West Coast bid here on Will Graham. Few Wills in this draft, and not the last one we'll see here. But Gold Coast will match the bid. Yes, he's got an invite to day one of the draft, and this does feel maybe unlucky, but this is kind of a case of this is just where he falls. So I do apologise, Will. But definitely the lesser known out of the 4 Academy draft guys, but he is a smart and clever player. I wouldn't expect to see him in 2024 unless he really is burning up the track, but he will be able to develop, and where he fits in the Gold Coast Best 22 afterwards will be remain to be seen. If Noah Anderson does become a bona fide mid for the entirety of a season, Will Graham on a wing might not be the worst place to start. Back-to-back Wills here. We're going with Will Dawson at the Eagles. Tall depth, absolutely. Athletic, absolutely. Footy IQ, absolutely. The Eagles, I know in this draft, haven't made any trades. There aren't actually any trades in this video. Talking about what kind of picks could be traded, etc. So, I mean, if you don't like that, I do apologise. But the Eagles at this point, yes, they did get Matt Flynn. They've got Oscar Allen. Jack Darling is still there. They've got Bailey Williams. But who is turning down a guy of this talent? Who? Who is it? Because it ain't the Eagles. I promise you. Could be anything, this guy. Brisbane, yes, the third tall forward didn't really work out with Jack Gunston, but he did have some good moments on the field. So I'm convinced they could take a shot on Luke Lloyd here, who would play as their third tall forward. I really like this guy. Probably in the last 2 months, he's been a guy whose stock I'm buying a lot of. Nice in front of the goals. Wouldn't need to take the opposition's best defender. You're going to a good team already. Match made in heaven for Double L. The Saints at 41. I do like the Joel Freya fit here. Tall, wingman, good user. It's what Ross is looking for. And out of this draft, they have fulfilled some really nice needs, in my opinion. Their defensive setup is already great, and the ability to move the ball in between the arcs is pretty much dependent on Wanganeen Miller, Brad Hill, and Jack Sinclair, it seems. Give it not a whole lot of time, and Freya would add to that mix as well. Not only does his length allow him to become a very awkward matchup in a one-on-one contest if the Saints do need to dump it down the line and Rowan Marshall is not on the ground, it allows Max King to play a bit further to goal because Freya's frame, and his good ball use will help the Saints in transition, whether they've got the ball or getting the ball back. The Tigers, they start tall, let's go to a small. Cohen Sanchez is a guy they could really look at here. Their small forward stocks are a bit at the moment. Morris Rioli Jr. has some moments, hasn't really proven himself yet. Judson Clark, I think, has shown quite a bit. And then you kind of go into but let's throw another one into the mix here. Raw talent, loves the goals. I know Richmond will want him to put defensive pressure on, which he can do. It'll be a point of improvement for new coach Adam Uze. But, with the amount of talent that this guy has got, and considering where Richmond are picking from in the draft, I think it's a genuine win-win for the yellow and black. The Ds, they've taken forward, they've taken it back. Let's take a really good talent available, a silky mover. Let's go Cade Delarue in this spot. I was genuinely surprised that this guy wasn't as considered last year, but I think he had a foot injury last year, and I'm not sure whether he qualified age-wise, but that's not important. I've seen this guy live a couple of times, surprised he hasn't been talked about a whole lot in draft circles, but his ball use is very, very good. The way he covers the ground is nice as well. And again, when you go to a good team, you're not expected to play round one. You're not under the pressure of rush development. That's not the case here. A win for the Ds in this spot and a win for Cade as well. I've got the Hawks matching a bid for Colsha Deer in this spot, who is a forward I don't think we'd see a whole lot of in 2024. We don't need to, because the Hawks have got Mitch Lewis, they've got Marbior Chol, they've got Jack Gunston, I should say. But considering Mitch Lewis hasn't played more than 16 games in a season throughout his career yet, maybe we do. So who knows? But Colsha's got really nice hands, really came on in the back half of last year, nice kick at goal as well, and is a fantastic story. Another Hawk father-son would be magnificent. Ned McGuinness is not going to be a father-son in this draft, as he will be a over-ager in next year's under-18s competition. So maybe the Hawks can get 3 in 2 years. But Colsha will be welcomed with open arms, I'm sure. And hey, we might see him in 2024, which would be really cool. And to finish the second round with the 45th pick is the Giants taking Angus Hastie, a guy who can lock down as a defender, but he is kind of a versatile defender. And again, just because he doesn't fit in the best 22 right now doesn't mean he is not a worthwhile draft option. This drives me nuts when people complain about draft stuff, whether it's mine or another content creators or even the AFL phantom drafts, where it's like, this guy wouldn't be in their best 22 right now, so don't draft him. That is ridiculous. Ridiculous. Footy IQ from Angus is fantastic. His ability to stop opponents of all shapes and sizes would really appeal to the Giants as they keep shoring up their defense. They did give up way too many inside 50s last year and held up magnificently. He would add to this fold, and once again, he's got what you can't teach. A footy brain. Like this guy a lot. Alrighty, the third round, back-to-back wingmen here at this spot. Let's start with Freo. Aiden O'Driscoll is the man that they are going to bring over, I hope, at this spot. Really, really nice player, this guy. Yes, he's had some moments where you're like, will he even be drafted? He's had some moments where he's like, this guy's a top 25 talent. And I think he does fit somewhere in between. I think Freo is a nice landing spot for him, not just because Nathan is there as well, but because when Matty Johnson goes into the midfield, that wing spot is going to be open, a wing spot that he will be able to take. Freo, they get to build even more with some more youngsters. I like the way this guy takes meterage, takes territory, and he works hard defensively as well. How that'll translate to the AFL, can't wait to find out. But this just makes a whole lot of sense for me. And if we're on the subject of wingmen, Brisbane, Tarkin O'Leary would be a really good fit for the Lions in this spot. The way he uses the footy is nice, and my God, this kid can cover territory for days. Absolute days. Is it just me, or a Brisbane as a contender coming out of this draft a little bit too well? A little bit too well. I've got my eyes on you, Brisbane. The Doggies, they've got Watson, they've got Croft. Let's go get you that silky midfielder that you haven't got yet. Kane McAuliffe, the South Australian smooth mover, would be an amazing fit at the kennel. They've already got an aging midfield with Libba and Adam Treloar over the 30 hump. Now, I'm not suggesting that they're going to fall off and not be at the club in 2025 or anything like that, but you got to look at Generation Next. He would fit the bill beautifully. I'm not sure that outside of Bont and Bailey Smith, if they've got that third guy in Generation Next. I don't know what's going on with Jackson McRae, but he looked like a shell of his former self in 2023. And Big Kano, oh boy, could be the steal of the draft in this spot. I've got Brisbane passing here. We start with some passes, which is going to be nice as we can look to wrap up this draft. But we're going back to the Bulldogs here, and I think this is their last pick in this draft. But I've got them taking Bodie Ryan, who is a defender that does a little bit of everything. Now, does that mean he doesn't have an A+ strength yet? Maybe. He doesn't need to play for the Bulldogs straight away, though. So, all good. All good in that department. Really like what I've seen in the back end from this guy. A guy I was very late to watching, but one to keep an eye out for sure. North, their last selection. They're going to take 6 in this draft. Take the best talent available, and at this spot, I think it's Harvey Johnston. Yes, another midfielder forward. I know. But you're taking best talent available. He's it. I think it's that simple. The Eagles, I've got them taking Clay Hall here. His ball use is being pretty much destroyed on social media in the last couple of months, which I think is reasonably stupid. But local lad, time to develop, doesn't need to play in round 1. And let's see what they've got with him. But Clay is a good player. Has he got some weaknesses to his game? Yes. My God, I've got weaknesses. We all do. We're not special. It's a part of life. I've got the Giants passing here, and I think Freo have got to take best talent available. And at this spot, I think that might be Will Lorenz, who is kind of going under the radar, but he hasn't really had your standout BOG performances, but he'll be able to develop at the Dockers. He won't have to be the number one man at any point, and his ball use is outstanding, which Freo need a whole lot more of as they look to score and win more games moving forward. I've got the Bombers passing here as well, and the Hawks I've actually got taking a 4th selection. Dun dun dun. Let's go to North Adelaide. Small forward Jack DeLeon is the man I'm looking at here. Yes, we've got Josh Bennett. Yes, we've got Jack O'Sullivan. But everyone at Hawthorn land in Hawthorn fandom wants Nick Watson because we want some small forward excitement. This guy is a nice small forward. So fits the need there. Like what I've seen. Yes, it's not like he's kicked 8 in a game yet. But again, we don't need to. Let's see what we've got. Late pick, late swing. Nothing to lose, and what we could gain out of a guy as clever as Jack is a real surprise. Few more passes as we go back to Richmond, and I've got them taking Will Brown, 195 centimetres, midfielder forward, adds a dynamic not only to the centre bounce as he develops, but another forward threat as well. Richmond aren't looking too bad, their list after this draft, I've got to be honest with you, but Will Brown's raw talent is exciting, and I think well worth taking a shot here for the yellow and black. More and more passes until we get to the Swans, and I've got them taking a chance on Sean Manor. When you do what you did in that VFL Grand Final, at some point, teams need to look at the State League and go, that guy is worth a list spot. This guy is worth a list spot. Someone take a chance on him, and if anyone is going to, it's Sydney. Because he's talented, clearly. Give him a shot. Second last pick in this draft, Carlton. I've got them taking Will Patton, a definite slide for my man Wilbur, but fits Carlton's needs beautifully as a rebounding defender, more of an intercepting and rebounding defender hybrid, if I'm being honest. But look, who can turn down a guy of this talent? Leadership qualities as well. Beautiful fit for the Blues. I've given them forwards in this draft, so let's get them a defender, and Will would be a very good one in the navy blue. We finish with Port, and I've got them taking the man affectionately known as NP, because I'm still sick and tired of people not knowing how to pronounce his last name, including me, so I'm going to stop trying until an AFL commentator says it, or someone from his family reaches out, because I'm sick and tired of about 8 different bloody pronunciations. But they're getting a rebounding defender, a really clever player, a guy on the outside. We saw Dylan Williams come through and do a really good job, but because of the way that Port's draft is set up, they need to take someone, best talent available, and I think this guy could be a genuine steal in this draft spot and a very nice, smart player. So that's it, guys. Yes, there were no trades in this draft, which I apologise for. There should be some that happened throughout the night, but as the picks stand, and a few picks that might be traded, I don't think there's going to be too many trades on draft night. I really don't. If I had to hazard a guess, I would say 4. But I hope you've enjoyed. I'm not going to overexert this ending so you guys can get out of here. But thank you so much for watching for the entirety of this mock draft process. I hope you really enjoyed this final one. Hope you enjoy the new setup with the lights there. Looks pretty cool, I hope. I will see you next time. Don't forget, this is only day 1 of the 4-day draft bonanza. I'm going live for the next 3 days. I've got your Q&A and then reacting to day 1 and day 2. Can't wait to see you over the weekend. Hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. You absolute legends. I'll see you next time. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.